My name is Nora, I'm 35, and I did something I can't take back. I stood in front of the mirror wearing the black lace lingerie he once said drove him crazy. The kind with the delicate straps and the soft mesh that made my skin feel like silk. It used to mean something to both of us. Desire, anticipation, playfulness, intimacy. But last week, I wore it again. And not for my husband. That realization, it hasn't left me. Not even for a second. Not because I cheated, I didn't. But because the version of me who used to wear that lingerie just for him, she's gone. Or maybe, she's still here, but buried under too many nights of silence, too many tired kisses, too many moments where I reached out and he didn't notice. I didn't used to feel this hollow. We used to be us. Me and Patrick. He was my safe place, strong, sweet, dependable. I used to think we were solid in a way no storm could touch. We built a life, one that looked beautiful from the outside. House, garden, weekend getaways. Even the inside was pretty good for a while. We had a rhythm. Lazy Sunday mornings. Cooking dinner together with music playing. Kisses that turned into more, even when the pasta was burning. His hands on my waist while I dried dishes. The kind of affection that made you feel wanted without saying a word. But slowly, too slowly to see at first, something shifted. It wasn't dramatic. No betrayal. No shouting. Just time and comfort and assumptions. He started coming home later. I stopped waiting up. We got tired. We got busy. And before I knew it, our connection had turned into routine. The cuddling became short-lived, a brief touch before sleep. His kisses started landing on autopilot, quick, soft, empty. When I leaned in to hug him last week after his work trip, he held me back. Yes, but it felt more like something he was supposed to do than something he wanted to. That's when I started asking myself the questions I didn't want to face. Does he still want me? Do I still want him? Do we still even see each other anymore? And then came the moment, the one that's been eating at me ever since. It was a Thursday night. He was asleep on the couch, another half-watched Netflix show humming in the background. I stood in our bedroom, changing clothes, and opened my lingerie drawer on impulse. My hand brushed over the black lace set, his favorite. Something in me paused. I didn't put it on for him that night. He was passed out, snoring softly with a throw pillow crushed against his chest. I didn't wear it to seduce him. I wore it to see if I could still feel like me. The me he used to look at like a secret he was dying to unwrap. The me who felt bold, magnetic, alive. And in that mirror, as the straps slid over my shoulders and the hem brushed my thighs, I felt something I hadn't in a long time. Seen. Beautiful. Not by him. Not by anyone else. But by myself. That was the moment I realized something had changed. Not just in the way we touched or talked or made love. But something fundamental, something I had ignored for too long. The way I had started dressing for silence. Moving through the day without expecting desire. Accepting the absence of spark like it was a normal part of aging or marriage or being settled. And now, I don't know if that black lace means freedom or failure. All I know is, I didn't wear it for him. And that truth? It's not leaving me alone. Patrick is a high school history teacher, the kind who stays late to help failing kids, writes encouraging notes on test papers, and still believes in chalkboards even though the school bought smart screens 2 years ago. He's calm, steady, the kind of man who wins parent-teacher awards and forgets to buy milk on the way home. He's not flashy or poetic. He doesn't write love notes or plan weekend surprises. But he's good. At least, he used to be enough. Now I find myself aching for a kind of closeness we don't know how to access anymore. It started small, the emotional misfires, the missed signals. I'd be quiet at dinner, pushing broccoli around my plate, and he'd assume I was tired. He'd reach over to squeeze my hand, smiling like that fixed something. It didn't. One night last week, I had a long day. Exhausting meeting. Unreasonable deadlines. When I walked through the door, he was already on the couch, grading papers with his glasses low on his nose. I dropped my bag harder than I meant to, hoping he'd look up. He didn't. Instead, he said, "Hey babe," without glancing up, just the top of his head bent over some student's failing test. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. I wanted him to notice me, not my presence, but my mood. My need. That I was unraveling a little and didn't know how to say it out loud. I went into the kitchen, poured wine, and just stood there, frozen, trying to swallow the knot in my throat. Later that night, he came up behind me while I was brushing my teeth, wrapped his arms around my waist, kissed the back of my neck. I stiffened, just slightly. He didn't notice. "Missed you today," he mumbled into my skin. And I hated how my body reacted. Part of me wanted to lean into him, but the other part recoiled. Not because I didn't want him, but because I needed something else first. Words. Connection. The emotional warmth before the physical one. "You always say that," I said, barely above a whisper. He pulled back. "Say what?" "Missed you today." "You say it like clockwork." Patrick blinked. "Because I do miss you." "What are you trying to say?" I looked at him. Tired eyes. Soft lines around his mouth. The same man I promised forever to. But suddenly I felt like we were speaking two different languages. "I don't want to be another part of your routine," I said. "I want to feel like you see me, not just touch me when it's convenient." He stepped back like I'd slapped him. "That's not fair. Isn't it? You think I don't care?" His voice stayed low, but I heard the crack in it. "I show up. I do what I've always done. I hold you. I try. You touch me when you want something. That's not connection. That's habit," I interrupted, instantly regretting the harshness. He ran a hand through his hair, turning away. "So what, now you're keeping score?" "No, my voice faltered. I just want to feel like I matter before my clothes come off." That landed hard. The next morning, he left for work without waking me. No kiss, no note, no touch. Just a half-empty coffee mug in the sink and the sound of the door clicking shut. I sat up in bed, alone, wearing the same camisole I used to wear for him, soft cotton, barely their straps. But all I felt was fabric on skin. No meaning, no memory, no warmth. We were starting to move through each other like strangers. Quietly, without breaking anything big, just bruising each other with all the words left unsaid. And the worst part? He thinks he's loving me. He really thinks this is love. He tried again the following weekend. It was a Saturday afternoon, one of those gray, sleepy ones where the house feels still and quiet, but not in a peaceful way. More like forgotten. We hadn't spoken much all morning. Just a few tired exchanges about grocery lists and whether we had enough detergent. I was in the bedroom folding laundry when Patrick walked in. He didn't say anything at first. Just leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, watching me silently. I could feel his eyes on me, not in a creepy way, but in a searching way. Like he was trying to find the version of me he used to know. "Hey," he said after a minute, his voice gentle. "You okay?" I nodded without looking up. "Yeah." He stepped closer. "Can I help?" "I'm almost done." He took a shirt from the basket and started folding beside me anyway. We worked in silence, our elbows brushing slightly. I felt the tension in the air, the invisible wall between us. We were close physically, but emotionally, we were continents apart. Then, without warning, he reached over and gently smacked my butt, soft, playful, like he always used to when we were flirting. It used to make me laugh. Sometimes it would turn into something more, a kiss, a touch, a knowing look. But this time, I flinched. Not out of pain. Just discomfort. Like his touch didn't belong to the moment. He noticed immediately. "Sorry," he said quickly. "I didn't mean to, it's fine," I said too fast, folding another towel like it suddenly required all my attention. Patrick stepped back. Nora, I didn't look up. I couldn't. He reached for my waist again, trying to pull me into him. His lips brushed my cheek. I stood still, stiff, like my body didn't know how to respond anymore. He turned me gently toward him. Talk to me. I tried to smile. I wanted to feel something. Wanted the spark to reignite. Wanted his touch to matter again. But it didn't. He leaned in and kissed me, soft, slow, familiar. And I stood there, letting him. My arms stayed limp at my sides. When he pulled back, he searched my face for something. Anything. I looked away. I'm sorry, I whispered. I'm not there right now. Patrick backed up, his expression unreadable. I don't know what to do anymore. Every time I try, it's like you're not even here. I am here, I said quickly. Then let me in, he replied, voice barely above a whisper. Please. But how could I? How do you let someone in when you don't even know where you're hiding? Later that night, I lay in bed beside him, listening to his breathing. He was awake, I could tell. His shoulder just barely touching mine under the blanket. I wanted to roll over, to hold his hand, to say something, but I didn't move. Instead, I stared at the ceiling, eyes wide, heart hollow, thinking about the way he touched me like everything was still okay, and how I responded like I was made of glass. Why does everything have to turn into sex? Why can't it just be a conversation? A connection? A chance to breathe? It was supposed to be a reset. Patrick made dinner, pasta with homemade garlic bread, even lit a candle in the middle of the table. He'd put on music, soft jazz, the kind he knew I liked in college. He shaved, wore cologne. There was an effort I hadn't seen in months, maybe even years. And still, I felt numb. We sat across from each other with our plates full, the flicker of candlelight casting soft shadows on his face. He looked at me like he was waiting for something. Like his gesture should have magically fixed everything that had gone cold between us. This is nice, I said, finally. He smiled faintly. I thought it'd be good for us. Yeah, I nodded. It is. But I didn't feel anything. Not appreciation. Not connection. Just pressure. That familiar weight that told me I was supposed to respond with gratitude, maybe a kiss later, maybe more if the mood followed. And that's when it started bubbling. Patrick leaned forward and reached for my hand. I miss us, he said. I miss how we used to be. My fingers twitched in his, but I didn't close the gap. I wanted to, but I couldn't. You know what I miss? I said, my voice quieter. I miss me. He blinked. What do you mean? I let out a breath, trying to keep the emotion down. I don't even recognize myself anymore. I used to feel sexy, alive, connected. And now I feel like a box you check off. He dropped my hand. Nora, where is this coming from? I looked at him. Really looked. The man I married. The man who always tried, in his way. But he didn't understand. And I was so tired of trying to make him. I wore that black lingerie last week, I said suddenly, my voice cracking. The one you love. The one you used to beg me to wear on your birthday. I put it on, and you were asleep on the couch. His mouth opened slightly, then closed. And the worst part? I went on, tears rising now. I didn't put it on for you. I didn't even think of you when I did. I put it on because I needed to remember who I was before I became invisible in this marriage. He stared at me like I'd just confessed to something unforgivable. Are you saying there's someone else? No, I said quickly. No, there isn't. But there could have been. And maybe that's the real problem. That I started wondering. What would it feel like if someone else looked at me and actually saw me? Patrick stood up from the table then. Not violently, just stunned. Wounded. You're telling me this now? After I tried, he said, his voice tight. After I put everything into tonight? I didn't ask for this dinner, I said, wiping at my tears. You keep thinking this is about trying harder. But it's not. It's about trying differently. I need more than kisses and candles, Patrick. I need to feel like I matter when I'm in sweatpants too. Silence. He stood there, fists gently clenched, chest rising and falling like he was trying to control the storm inside him. I don't know how to fix something I didn't know was broken, he said finally, then walked out of the room. I sat there for a long time. The pasta went cold. The wine glass half full. The jazz music still playing like nothing had happened. I stared at the candle as the wax melted, realizing how much like us it felt, slowly burning down, flickering quietly, still giving light, but shrinking by the second. And then the shame came. For saying it out loud. For hurting him. For waiting so long to speak the truth that now came out like a scream. I used to be the kind of woman who wore lingerie to make him feel lucky. Now I wore it just to prove to myself I still existed. And that broke me more than anything else. 2 weeks passed. We still lived in the same house. Slept in the same bed. Shared the same quiet mornings and wordless dinners. But the space between us had grown into something I didn't recognize. And the worst part? I missed him. Not just the man who used to trace circles on my thigh while we watched TV, but the man who'd leave silly notes on the fridge. The man who'd bring home chocolate-covered almonds because he saw them and thought of me. The one who would talk about old movies, his students, the small things that made his day. Now he barely spoke. Just existed beside me, like a shadow that didn't want to disturb the light. He wasn't cruel, not even cold. He still made coffee in the morning. Still loaded the dishwasher after dinner. Still folded the laundry neatly into my drawers. But it was all mechanical. Like we were roommates checking off responsibilities rather than two people who once loved each other deeply. I caught him once, sitting in the car in the driveway, long after he'd parked. Just staring out the windshield, his hand resting on the steering wheel. He didn't know I was watching from the kitchen window. There was something so quietly broken in his stillness. Like a man trying to hold himself together without knowing where the cracks had started. And I realized something I hadn't allowed myself to feel. He was hurting too. This wasn't just my loneliness. He was grieving the loss of us, same as me, just in his own silent way. We had both let the intimacy die. Both waited too long to say what we needed. And now we were just two tired hearts walking on opposite sides of the same room, waiting for the other to make the first move. I wanted to touch him, to apologize, to crawl back into his arms and cry into his chest until the guilt washed away. But I didn't know how, because the longer we stayed in this limbo, the more I questioned if we were just prolonging something that had already ended. One night, I found one of his old t-shirts folded in the back of my drawer. The gray one I used to sleep in. I held it to my chest and breathed him in, or the memory of him, anyway, and the tears came fast. I sat on the edge of the bed, hugging the shirt like it could somehow hold me back together, and thought, do I still want this? Not the comfort, not the habit, but him, us, the possibility of us, if we could learn how to speak again. And the truth hit me like a wave. Yes, but only if we stopped pretending. Only if we let the old version of us die and built something new, something honest. I wiped my face, folded the shirt, and stood up. Tomorrow, I would ask him if he still wanted to try. Because if he said yes, I'd fight for him. But if he didn't, I'd finally set us both free. I found him in the backyard that evening, sitting alone on the patio steps with a beer in one hand and our dog curled up by his feet. The sky was dimming, that soft purple just before night takes over. And for a second, I almost turned around. Almost convinced myself that we'd said enough, or that silence had become safer than whatever might come next. But then he looked up. Just once. His eyes met mine, tired, kind, unreadable, and I knew this was the moment. I sat down beside him, not touching. I miss you, I said softly. He didn't speak right away. Just took another sip of his beer. I miss you too, he said finally. but I don't know how to reach you anymore. I swallowed the knot in my throat. Maybe we stopped reaching each other at the same time. He nodded, eyes fixed ahead. That night, when you said you wore it but not for me, I've been thinking about that every day. I wasn't trying to hurt you, I whispered. I didn't know how else to say I felt invisible. You never were invisible to me, Nora, he said. But I guess I didn't show it the way you needed. We sat in silence again. A more honest kind this time. He finally looked at me. Do you still love me? I blinked hard, tears pushing forward. Yes, but I think we forgot how to love each other, not just in our ways, but in the way the other actually needs. He nodded. Then maybe we stop guessing. I reached for his hand, and this time, he didn't flinch. We stayed like that for a while, not fixing anything, not promising forever. Just holding on. That night, he didn't sleep on the couch. But he didn't initiate anything, either. Instead, we lay side by side in bed, our legs barely touching under the blanket. And before he turned out the light, he leaned over and kissed my forehead. A small, quiet gesture. Not lust, not habit, just care. And for the first time in a long time, it felt like a start. You always think the unraveling will be loud, that it'll come in the form of betrayal, or shouting, or slammed doors. But the truth is, it's quieter than that. It starts in silence, in glances that don't linger, in kisses that don't land, in bedtime conversations that shrink to weather reports and reminders to take the trash out. That's how it began for me. I didn't wake up one day and stop loving him. That would have been easier. I wanted to want him. I wanted to feel lit up again. Desired. Seen. But wanting something doesn't always make it real. There's this version of love we're sold, the one where the right person just knows. They intuit what you need. They show up with flowers and foreheads pressed together and promises whispered in the dark. But real love? It's work. It's unlearning every fairy tale that told you your partner would just magically understand you. It's figuring out how to speak two different emotional languages, even when your mouths are too tired. I used to think intimacy was just about sex. That if the physical part faded, everything else would eventually follow. But what I've learned the hard, slow way is that intimacy starts long before the bedroom. It's in the way you speak, or listen, or notice. I didn't stop wearing that black lingerie because I stopped loving him. I stopped wearing it because it started to feel like a performance. Like a mask I put on to pretend things were okay. Like an expectation I had to meet, rather than an expression of something I actually felt. So yes, I wore it again. But not for him. I wore it for me. Because I was aching to remember the woman I used to be before the routine, before the quiet distance, before I started shrinking myself to fit the shape of someone else's comfort. That night didn't destroy us. But it did wake us up. We started having real conversations, not the kind where one person listens just long enough to respond, but the kind where you sit in the discomfort, unsure of where it's going to lead. And somehow, through the awkwardness, through the tears, through the silence, we found something honest again. Is it perfect? No. Some days, it still feels like we're fumbling in the dark, trying to figure out how to reach each other without breaking the fragile progress we've made. But now, at least, we try differently. I no longer wear the lingerie for validation. I wear it when I want to feel powerful. For me. And when I do wear it for him now, it's a gift, not a rescue mission. I've learned that love isn't just about showing up. It's about showing up in the right way. With curiosity, with humility, with willingness to ask the uncomfortable questions and stay for the answers. And desire? It lives in presence, in eye contact, in the soft, ordinary moments where you're reminded that someone chooses you, not just out of habit, but out of care. I'm not the same woman I was when we first met. Neither is he. But maybe that's the point. Maybe love, real love, isn't about holding on to who you used to be. It's about choosing each other, again and again, even as you both evolve. So, If you're listening to this, wondering if you're the only one who feels invisible inside something that used to feel safe, you're not. And if you've worn the lace or faked the kiss or swallowed the words because you didn't know how to say, "I miss myself," you're not alone. You're just human. And maybe the bravest thing you can do is admit it and start from there.